Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our Now Spoke webinar on Simple Finance for Everyone with Kevin Hwang. We want to introduce this new speaker to the platform and give a little bit of background about who he is and what he's come to speak with us today. So just to provide a little bit of background about Kevin, he's from Maryland and earned his BBA in finance at George Washington University in 2019. He's responsible for advising Fortune 500 companies for deployment, migrating, adopting, and operating Microsoft's cloud solutions. He's currently a technical account manager at Microsoft, and prior to working at Microsoft, has worked at the World Bank, Securities, and Exchange Commission, as well as Wells Fargo Securities. So we're really excited to have Kevin join us to give us some guidance around, how to do personal financing, as well as some tips and tricks and what he's learned in his roles and experience. And if you have, during any time of this webinar, you have any questions, feel free to link those questions in the Q&A tab at the very bottom of the Zoom link. You'll see right there that you can insert anonymous questions or questions that you have that Kevin can answer at the very end. And if you have any introductions or you just want to say hi, feel free to drop in a comment in the chat window and we'll say hello to you back. So with that being said, we're very excited and we'll pass it off to Kevin to take you through his presentation on Simple Finance. Welcome, Kevin.
All right, let me just share my screen. Okay, I think it's sharing right now. Well, thank you everybody for joining on this session of Simple Finance for Everyone. I am super excited to share with you guys on how to manage money efficiently and effectively. And I think first and foremost, financial literacy is so important for everyone, no matter what stage of life you're in, whether you're a young professional, a college student, or you've been in the industry for a very long time. So hopefully you guys are able to learn and get something out of this session. And I'm gonna leave some time for Q&A at the end as well. So these are the topics that I'll go over today. I'm gonna go over my background, why financial literacy is important to you, spending habits and budgeting, managing debt, how to increase your credit score, savings and investing in current markets, retirement planning, the differences between the 401k versus the Roth IRA. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about networking and general advice and leave some time at the end for Q&A. So just a background about myself. My name is Kevin Hwang again. I'm a technical account manager here at Microsoft. I've been with the company for about 10 months now. And just joining Microsoft has been probably the best experience and best decision that I've ever made in my entire life. So I've had a great experience overall. I learned how to be a great professional, as well as understanding many different aspects of life, and also gain a passion for working with organizations to transform them to go through the digital transformation journey. So, but before joining Microsoft, I was originally born in South Korea. I came to the States when I was 10 years old and grew up in Montgomery County, Maryland, my whole entire life. And I attended the George Washington University, where I got my undergraduate degree in BBA in finance. And I actually went to GW because I got recruited on the varsity soccer team. So my experience at GW has been fantastic. And just being in DC, I took advantage of the location itself. So I worked in both public and private sectors at the World Bank, SEC, which stands for Security Exchange Commission, and Wells Fargo Securities doing investment banking. And then I pivoted my career path into tech because I've always had an interest in tech. I've always realized that big tech companies are really driving every industry all over the world. So I wanted tech to be on the tail end of my career. So I had an opportunity, and now I'm a tech account manager at Microsoft, and it's been an amazing experience. So I'm based out of Washington, DC. And what I like to do for fun. So outside of work, I enjoy traveling. I like to listen to finance and tech podcasts. I love running. I'm a very active guy. And I love playing soccer and spending time with family, my parents and my little brother back home. And also like investing as well. And these are my close friends. They actually went to George Washington University and graduated the same year and started at Microsoft together. So on the left is Claudia, and on the right is Apsara. And these are some of the certifications that I was actually able to achieve as well in Azure. So if you're interested in learning more about Azure, feel free to contact me, let me know. So why is financial literacy important to you and all of us? So I did some research and found some statistics. It says that millions of Americans are only $400 away from financial hardship. And it says how many Americans actually keep a formal budget. A poll found that 1 out of 3 Americans, which is 32%, maintain a household budget. And only 30% of Americans have a long-term financial plan that includes savings and investment goals. And the average American spends less than 4.5 hours a year with scheduled time on their calendar for finances. 4.5 hours a year. I spend 4.5 hours a day. Maybe not a day, but a week. So I think 4.5 hours a year is very small, limited time in terms of understanding finances. And other stats include 29% of people report that they are financially strong or that they are spending, saving, borrowing, and planning in a way that will ensure long-term success. And then 54% say that they are financially coping or struggling with some aspects of financial lives. And then 70% consider themselves as financially vulnerable. And then also lastly, some 44% of people said their expenses exceeded their income in the past year and they use credit to make their ends meet. And another 42% said they have no retirement savings at all. So when I look at all these statistics, I think it is ridiculous how Americans and young professionals are just not ready to really understand how to manage your money and be financially literate. Being financially literate is extremely tough, first of all. It's overwhelming. There's too many resources out there on Google. And also, schools don't teach you enough about financial literacy. When I was going through high school and college, I never really learned how to manage money. So I had to learn all this stuff by myself. And then managing money will never go away in your entire life. And the most young people aren't educated on managing money as well and regret purchases in the past. So the outcomes that you can get with being financially literate, you're able to reduce stress, you're able to increase your wealth over a period of time. And money does not equal happiness. However, I think money equals comfort. So for me, I want to be comfortable with my life. So I want to be in a good financial situation. So in order for you to be comfortable, you got to understand how to be financially literate. And being financially literate increases your ability to achieving your goals and provides you with a better overall quality of life, and you have the power to negotiate as well. Now I'm going to talk about spending habits and budgeting. So when you start working, for those of you who haven't started working, this is basically your paycheck. So first, gross pay, this is your total income earned before any payroll deductions. And then these are the deductions, like Federal Insurance Contribution Act. These represent your Social Security retirement and Medicare benefit contributions. Federal income tax, this is a tax that you had to pay to the federal government. State income tax, this depends on your state, what the rate they charge you at. And some states actually don't have any state income tax. So you want to make sure you're aware of that. And then state disability insurance. So after you subtract gross pay minus all the deduction, you'll be left with the net pay. So it's really important to build a budget based on the expenses and your monthly take-home pay. So I categorize into 4 expenses here. So first, fixed costs. So these are costs that won't change month to month. So for example, it includes rent, utilities, car payments, student loans, and recurring payments. Variable costs can vary month to month significantly, and it really depends. And examples include shopping, dining, entertainment as well. And then portion of your monthly take-home pay should go into savings, whether you're trying to obtain a higher education, or you're trying to purchase a home down the road, or you're trying to buy a car. You always want to make sure you put a lot of money into savings account. And then there's sometimes expenses. Examples include wedding, holiday gifts, as well. So my tips would be create a multiple savings account for different savings goals. Plan for sometimes expenses ahead of time and save a portion of this each month. And also, you have control and autonomy over the variable costs. However, you won't be able to control fixed costs. So these generally stay the same. But you have the ability to control your variable cost spending. So you want to always try to reduce that as much as you can. And then managing debt. Average student debt in America is $1.6 trillion. As you can see, there's a lot of zeros. That's a lot of number, right? Total student loan debt outstanding. 44 million Americans have student loan debt. 7 out of 10 leave college with student debt. So it's really important that you understand what loan you have and how to strategically pay this off. So these are my 5 tips of paying student loans. So first, know your debt. So know what type of loan that you have. So there are different types of loans. So there's direct, Stafford, plus private student loans. So the first 3 are government-backed loans. So the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized is subsidized is the government will pay the interest that's accrued on the loan, whereas unsubsidized is government will not pay for that interest when you decide to accept that loan. So that's the difference. And then the grace period would be from the time that you graduate to 6 months later. You're not obligated to pay any student loan. However, after that 6 month, you have to pay. You have to start paying that student loan. Private student loans, it really depends on the lender in terms of rates. So you got to look at the terms and conditions. My second tip will be add to your payments. Interest is always accruing on your principal balance, so pay off your loans quicker to reduce the overall cost of your student loans. And also use Make Lemonade to calculate how much money you can save with a one-time lump sum payment. My third tip would be if you are working in a state, local, federal public service job, you may be eligible for a public service loan forgiveness program. And also full-time teachers may apply for teaching loan forgiveness program as well. My fourth tip is refinance your student loans. Private lenders typically lower interest rate, offer a lower interest rate than federal lenders. So you want to make sure you look at the rates that private lenders offer. And refinancing your student loans through a private lender can reduce the overall cost of interest as well. And lastly, be strategic about your loan payment. Pay off your loans with the highest interest rate first to reduce the future interest owed. And also take advantage of the $2,500 tax deduction for student loan interest. This is basically saying you can reduce the amount of tax owed and increase the tax refund. I'm going to talk about credit score. So maintaining a good credit score is so important as a young professional and also professionals who has been in the industry for a very long time. So first, I'm going to go over why. So great scores equals, first of all, great deals. For example, if you're going to get a 30-year mortgage when you're purchasing a home down the line and your FICO score is between 760 and 850, you're going to get APR, which stands for annual percentage rate, the interest rate charge on that mortgage will be a lot lower than if you had a low and a really bad FICO score. So if you're just looking at the APR here, it's not a lot of difference between the percentage points. However, if you're looking at the total interest that's paid over a period of that 30-year, you can save thousands of dollars by having great credit scores. And you always want to pay credit card bills in full and on time to avoid debt and maximize benefits. And leverage incentives. Credit cards can offer monetary rewards such as cash back, flights, and hotel points as well. Now I'm going to talk about the FICO score. So FICOs actually stand for Fair Isaac Company. So that's the company that actually created the credit score. So between 300 and 560 is very bad. 560, 650 is bad. 650 to 700 is fair. 700 to 850 is good and excellent. So these are some of the factors that makes the FICO credit score. So payment history, amounts owed, length of history, new credit, types of credit used. And as you can see, payment history and amounts owed accounts for a lot of your credit score. So you want to pay attention to that. So how to get an 850 credit card score? You always want to be on the excellent category, right? So in parentheses, these are high impact to your credit score, as medium impact to your credit score, and then low impact to your credit score. So first, credit card utilization. So this is basically saying, for example, if your credit card lends you a line of credit of $1,000 and you spend 75% of that $1,000, which is 750, you're going to get a very poor credit score. However, if you are utilizing only 0 to 9%, which is less than 10% of the credit line that you have, you're going to get an excellent credit score. So I think a lot of people get it confused in that, hey, I got a great line of credit by the credit card company. I'm just going to spend a lot of money and pay back on time. That's going to increase my credit score. However, that's not the case, right? So you want to lower the credit card utilization in order for you to get an excellent credit score. Also, payment history. You always want to pay your bills on time, on due. You never want to be late. If you're late, there's going to be derogatory marks in your account, and credit score will definitely impact. And then age of credit history. This is medium impact. This isn't something that we can kind of change. It just takes a long period of time to develop that credit score. And then total accounts, credit increase, this is low impact. So a lot of people ask me, hey, Kevin, what should I do, right? So I would say apply for credit cards, but don't use your credit card. So a lot of my friends and buddies ask me, Kevin, what do you mean? I'm confused. Are you sure? I'm not going to listen to you. But I'm going to explain it more in detail. But first, let me explain how credit card companies make money. So they make money off of fees. So out of the various fees, interest charges are the primary source of revenue for a lot of these credit card companies and banks. So basically, they make money off of a spread. Spread meaning the difference between how much interest the company or the bank charges and how much interest the bank is paying you to keep your money into that specific bank account. So when credit card users fail to pay off their bill at the end of the month, the bank can charge an interest on that borrowed amount. So my key tips on using credit card and how to increase credit score again, I would say apply for credit cards, but don't use your credit card. Utilization is the number one thing. Keep it under 10%. You pretty much never want to use it. I would say keep it under 1%. That's what I do. And the best practice would be if you decide to use your credit card, you want to make sure you pay it off as soon as you buy something. That's the best practice. You never want to keep that in that credit card bill. So it's important also to understand that interest rate for credit card is around 20%. 20% is quite a lot. So it's important to notice that. And so I recommend use debit cards, use cash when you're making or when you're purchasing goods and services and when you're doing these transactions. And those rewards, 1% rewards, cash back is very minimal. So make sure you kind of pay attention to those as well. I would say apply for credit cards once every 3 or 4 months. But this is for folks who are more experienced, who are more knowledgeable about credit cards. I would not recommend for beginners. So when you're applying for credit cards, I personally look at fees. So I never want to pay fees, annual fees. They can go up to $500 a year, and some low as $95 a year. But for me, I don't want to pay fees to these companies. So I will always look at no annual fees charged. And also look at sign-up bonuses and cash back. For example, if the company, they might offer you, hey, if you spend $500 in the next 3 months, we're going to give you a cash back of $150. So if you have a necessity, and if you already decided that you're going to spend this amount of portion of money, you might want to apply for that credit card. And also look for the long-term value of the card as well. Now I'm going to talk about savings and investments. So before you start thinking about savings and investing, you always want to be strategic about this. You want to set short-term and long-term goals. So when I say short-term, long-term goals, I'm saying, do you want to purchase a home down the line in the next 10 years? Do you want to purchase a car? Do you want to travel to Paris or Europe? Do you want to purchase something like a bag or shoes? You always want to make sure you're being strategic about these, right? And then also start now. If you start tomorrow, it's too late. You always want to start early. I think there's a lot of young professional here. And also I saw some high school students and college students. You got to start now. Just start tonight. So starting early at a young age will really benefit you in the long run. So where to invest? I would invest in yourself. I think this is my favorite type of investment. Invest in yourself. Try to find passions. Try to find a skill set that really makes you stand out from the others, especially in a market like this with COVID. Job market is tough, right? So you always want to invest yourself, develop a particular skill set. But I'm going to talk more about where to invest later on. So how do I approach my savings? So for short term, medium term, long term, I'm going to talk about it. So in terms of the purposes for short term, it may be that you want to save up for emergency fund, near term major purchases, non-monthly expenses. So tools include cash and bank account, short term bonds, index funds, tech stocks. And then medium term, it may be that you want to just save generally, or you want to purchase a home or car down the road, or for travel. You want to save, or tools that you can use are stocks, index funds, mutual funds, bonds, and also cash and bank account. And then long term, your purpose might be retirement or your children's college education plan. And tools that you can use is 401k or Roth IRA. And then tax preferred college savings accounts, stocks, index funds, or mutual funds as well. Now I'm going to talk about the different types of investment. So these are the 6 investment asset classes that I'm going to talk about today. There are obviously more, but these are the 6 that I'm going to just kind of explain what it is. So an investment is an asset that is intended to produce income, income meaning money, or capital gains. Capital gains is basically, an example would be you purchase a stock at $10 and that stock goes up in value to 15. So the difference between 15 and 10 is $5, right? So that $5 is a capital gain. Stocks, you can invest in different industry stocks like tech stocks, healthcare stocks, financial services, IT, consumer discretionary, natural gas, oil, and retail. So you can invest in many different industries, uh, various of sizes of small, medium, and large. And also mutual funds and ETF is basically a basket of investment asset classes that are bundled up together. It's a risk mitigation exercise for a lot of these investors, so they don't put all their eggs in one basket. Option is pretty difficult. It's a derivative product. Basically, the value comes from the underlying asset. So you have the right, not an obligation, to purchase or sell the asset at a specific price at a specific date. I probably lost a lot of people there. So you don't need to pay too much attention to options. A REIT is basically, it stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. They are basically real estate management companies that manages real estate asset class for you. So when you're investing in REITs, you own partial ownership of that management company that owns the real estate. You're not actually owning that real estate, you own ownership of that real estate company. And then bonds is a fixed income instrument. It's basically when investors invest in companies and governments and they get paid interest and coupon payments. Treasuries are based bonds, munis are state and local bonds, corporate bonds, there's junk bonds, there's mortgage-backed security, basically mortgages that are bundled up together, and then high yield bonds. Real estate, there's 2 different types of real estate. There's commercial and residential. Commercial is basically a real estate that is intended to produce income, while residential is basically where we live, right? It's houses, it's not intended to produce income. And there's different types of real estate like retail, office, industrial, hotel. And then, as I mentioned previously, education is so important. You want to make sure you develop a skill set that you can become an expert at it, and really understand what makes you so passionate. Develop a skill and figure out what your passions are. And I'm really passionate about higher education and understanding education. And then commodities, they're basically natural goods, raw materials, and I broke it down into 3 categories: metals, energy, and agriculture. So metals is basically gold, silver, platinum; energy, oil, natural gas; agriculture are soybeans, wheat, oats, and corn. So you can actually trade commodities as well. Peer-to-peer lending is a new platform where you can lend and borrow without an institutional lender or a big financial bank. Next, I'm going to talk about the markets. I'm going to talk about the markets and the overall economy. So again, this is my personal opinion about the markets. I'm not a financial advisor by any means. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not a CFA, but I did my due diligence, and based on my research and my knowledge in the markets, this is kind of what I think about what's going on in the economy. So if you're looking at the markets, I think COVID-19 has created a lot of uncertainty and a lot of volatility in the market. So if you're looking at the economic fundamentals, GDP growth for 2020 in the US has gone down to 6.2% on the negative side. And for global as well, negative 2.5%. If you're looking at next year, we see a positive outlook for both US and global. We also see a rapid shift in the overall sentiment and the fundamentals of the economy. And I'm going to talk about 3 areas. So rising unemployment. Unemployment right now is at 14.7%, double digits. It's the highest it's ever been since the Great Depression, I mean. So it's going up and up and up. And this is bad for the economy because if people don't have jobs, people are not going to purchase goods and services, and that's going to affect the overall businesses, and that's going to negatively affect the overall economy. So just talking about businesses, lower consumer and business confidence as well. As you guys have seen in the news, a lot of small businesses are going out of business. And not just a small business, but a lot of retail companies are going out of business as well. So it's really impacting the overall economy because people are not going outside, they're not spending a lot more. However, we see the government, the federal government, and state and local jurisdiction um, opening up slowly in phases in the overall economy. So expect the GDP rebound, expect the overall markets to go up in the next couple of months. In terms of the macro factors, I think it opened the quarter with a strong economic forecast. I think COVID-19 outbreak has definitely been resulting in an economic shock in the US as well as the global markets. However, we have seen the US government and the Federal Reserve give an unprecedented monetary and fiscal response, meaning they're pumping in a lot of cash to the hands of American citizens with fiscal stimulus. I think Congress passed a $3 trillion fiscal stimulus plan where they're giving cash to a lot of Americans to make sure that they can pay the bills and they can put food on the table, which is a good sign for the overall market. So I guess the highlight will be unemployment rate, again, at 14.7%. It's very high. I think it's going to go up to 20%, which is one out of every 5 Americans that don't have a job, right? So this is definitely going to affect the overall economy. And also with the Federal Reserve, they're printing in a lot of money, as I mentioned before. There's COVID relief fund. There is the PPP program where they're giving a lot of cash flow to Americans, which will increase the overall economy and stimulate the economy. Geopolitical tensions, this has been around for a couple of years now with the US and China regarding trade wars. But I think because of this COVID situation, that tension has risen, where the US is going to now outsource its supply chain to other countries and not China. So this is not good because US and China are the 2 biggest economies in the world. So make sure you guys pay close attention to that. And so all in all, it's creating a lot of volatility and uncertainty in the markets. However, if you're looking at the overall history of the markets, these are the lastest crisis in the last history of S&P 500. So you look at Asian monetary crisis in 98, tech bubble in the early 2000s, the financial crisis of subprime mortgages in the 2008, trade wars, which I talked about, and also with COVID-19. These are all declined because of the crisis. However, in the next 12 months, we're going to see light at the end of the tunnel. So we're going to see the markets go up significantly. So make sure you guys are aware of that. So where I see opportunities, I think I see opportunities in quality equities, government bonds, and cash. So I would say always diversify your portfolio. You want to make sure you have a great mixture of equities. Equities means stocks, fixed income, commodities, and other asset classes in a time of uncertainty and a lot of volatility. And also you want to maintain cash to avoid any high risk. In terms of stocks, I would invest in tech stocks right now, especially in those in AI, cloud computing, robotics, big data, cybersecurity, gaming as well. And also healthcare, because a lot of these companies are making these vaccines to help get rid of COVID-19, right? So healthcare stocks is definitely something that you guys should pay close attention to. Large caps and international stocks for long term. Streaming companies, because we're all staying home, we're watching Netflix, we're watching Disney shows quite a bit. And I would preserve a lot of cash during these downtimes. With a lot of volatility, again, uncertainty, when COVID-19 will stop, you never know, right? So you always want to preserve cash and start saving for emergency fund if you don't have one already. Now I'm going to talk about retirement planning. So why I think about retirement? Why I think about retirement right now? People tell me, Kevin, it's too early to think of retirement. I got another 40, 50, 30 years left. I personally disagree. You always got to be strategic in your retirement plan because you're not going to work for the rest of your life, right? So you always want to think about that. And a good portion of your earnings when you guys start work go to retirement savings as well. And do you really know everything about the 401k and IRA? You got to understand what kind of returns are you getting on these retirement savings. And you got to understand the pros and cons of retirement savings as well as tax implication. And now I'm going to talk more about traditional 401k and the Roth IRA. So if you're looking at the traditional 401k, when you contribute your money into the traditional 401k, they're not taxed, which is why it's good. However, when you withdraw that money, you're going to be taxed. So make sure you guys are aware of that. In terms of the annual contribution limit, it's $19,500, which is a lot. And the Roth IRA, when you contribute your money into this account, they are taxed. You with all that money, 1,000. So the pros and cons of 401k. So I would say the pros would be taxes. So you put your money away in the 401k and you're not taxed at all. So this has the benefit of encouraging a lot of young people to start saving at a young age. And also free match. Often your employers will match what you put into your 401k. So it's really free money. But also ask yourself, why is this the only example of free money in the world, right? And then a large contribution amount, $19,500. And it's also easy. It's easy. Everybody's doing it. The cons would be you can't touch this until you're 59 and a half years old. So for a lot of us, that's like 30, 40 years out. You can't take the money out. If you can't afford it, tax rate, tax rate from 30, maybe in the back because you just started or you're younger than the cost of being taxed 30 years from now. Also, does it really help, right? 401k plans have been around for decades, and yet the average retiree does not have enough savings for retirement. So the evidence is fully in that 401k plans did not help. And now I'm going to talk about Roth IRA. So I would say the pros would be also taxes. You don't have to pay a huge tax later on when you pull that money out. And withdrawal rules are much more flexible in Roth IRA. So for example, if you're trying to purchase a home for the first time, you can withdraw $10,000 from your Roth IRA account. And then also for qualified education without any penalty on Roth IRA. And it's the diversification retirement plan. So it's another source of retirement savings. And then in terms of cons, you pay taxes now, but I think you pay taxes either way, right? As young professionals, as Americans, you're gonna pay taxes no matter what. Contributions are low. It's $6,000 compared to the 401k is at $19,500. So that it's not a lot. So I would encourage you guys to invest elsewhere. And you also have to set it up for yourself as well. Now I'm going to give some advice on networking. So over the last 4 years, when I was going through the recruiting process, I networked with a lot of folks. I think I reached out to more than 500 people on LinkedIn. I was that type of person where I had to just kind of reach out to many people. So I would say it's a numbers game. Reach out to as many people as you can. If you reach out to more people, the probability of you getting connected with that other person will be higher. But also focus on similarities. Focus on commonalities with that other person. So for example, for me, I played varsity soccer. So I would target those who played soccer. And that led me to just being more connected with that other person. And also show that you're different from others. What makes you stand out? What makes you so special, especially in a market like this? With COVID-19, there's a lot of competition in the job market. So you got to understand and figure out what makes you special and ask for what you want. You always want to come in with a purpose. Is it that you want to get connected to another professional within that company? Is it that you want a referral in the company, right? So you always want to come in with a purpose and ask smart and open-ended questions. You don't want to just ask questions that can be answered on Google, like, oh, what's the culture of this company? Oh, what do you guys do as a company, right? So you always want to ask open-ended and smart questions. And also, everyone is human, right? Don't go in nervous. Just be confident, and I'm sure you'll do well. And I realized over a period of time, when I was networking, you always want to mimic the person's style of communication. So if that other person talks fast, or if that other person likes to do small talk in the beginning, or if that other person wants to just get straight to the point, you want to mimic that other person's style of communication. And also prepare a script. For me, I always prepare a script. I always have a list of questions that I want to ask to that other person. So you always want to come prepared, over prepare all the time. My last best tip that I can give you guys is always say thank you. and also say sorry for asking too many questions. I'm just really interested in your role. So for me, when I always said that, the other person really appreciated me for saying that, because they're taking the time off of their day to invest in you. So always appreciate, show empathy, show compassion to that other person. My general advice would be find out your passion, right? I think a lot of young people don't really understand what they're passionate about. So find out not just something that you like, but find something that gets you excited, gets you up in the morning every day. It's called legitimate passion. And also educate yourself. Figure out an area that you're particularly good at, and figure out, okay, what you're good at, and become the best at it. Become an expert at that one thing. Again, in a market like this, I think companies really value a particular skill set that makes you special from others. And then embrace continuous learning. You always want to learn. As young people, we always want to learn and fail fast. And lastly, be authentic. Everyone is human again. Be real, show your colors, show empathy, show your compassion. Don't be fake. And for me, like, I interacted with a lot of people over my life, and I can tell in a matter of 5 to 10 seconds if that other person is being real with me or being genuine with me. So really be authentic when you're networking or when you're meeting with other people. My investment advice would be educate yourself before putting money down. You always want to know what you're doing. And stocks are dangerous and you will probably lose. Even these hedge funds, like the KKRs, the AQR Capital Management, Citadels, like these hedge funds lose money every year. So you always want to make sure that you know what you're doing. So understand what your goals and objectives are. Don't make decisions based on the news. No one really understands what the market is going to end up. Understand fees, tax implication, other hidden expenses from your investment. Question everything, be curious. And diversifying doesn't mean diversifying within different industries of stock. Diversifying means you're investing in different asset classes. Don't listen to all these YouTubers that make a lot of money and tell you which stocks to buy. Just do your own research and understand the trends and the current events as well. These are some of the podcasts that I like to listen to. I'm not going to read over all of them. You guys can look at it when you guys get this deck later on. And these are some of my other resources as well. So I'm going to end up with this. So when I was young, I mean, I'm still young, right? I was always chasing money. I always wanted to become rich and make a lot of money and become famous. But I quickly realized that that wasn't the case. That wasn't bringing me happiness. I think what brings you happiness is having great relationships with your family, with your parents, with your little brother or your sister, with your friends, and with the community around you. And I guarantee you, if you have a great relationship with those that are around you, you will be happier and also healthier emotionally, physically, and mentally as well. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And thank you guys so much for joining and listening in to my session on financial literacy. I hope you guys learned a lot. I'm gonna have some different projects and initiatives that I'm currently working on with Now Spoke as well. And feel free to give me feedback. Like, reach out to me, ping me, email me. Happy to answer, happy to talk, happy to give advice as well. And in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be more speakers on Now Spoke. So make sure you guys tune in. There's going to be excellent speakers, a lot better than me. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Feel free to ask any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Kevin. Really, really helpful information. And we did get a couple questions in the Q&A section of Zoom, so I will be directing those to you. This one comes from Iman. So they say, like you mentioned, there are way too many budgeting tools out there. Do you have any specific recommendations on spreadsheet layouts or apps we should use to budget?
Yeah. So I use mint.com. Mint.com is very easy for you to use, and you can see how much you have spent on a month-to-month basis, how much loan you have, and you can also tie in your investment accounts as well. So mint.com, register for that, and it just has everything for you, and you can manage all your investments and your debt and loan and how much money you're spending. So I would just make an account for that, and that will help you significantly. Thanks for asking.
Great, good recommendation. This one also comes from Iman. So they say they come from a Muslim family, so interest is not allowed in their religion and should be avoided if possible. So that means they can't have a savings account because it uses interest. Any recommendations on what to do in this situation?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. So let me just ask you, is it just the interest that you can't make off of your savings account, or is it just, or can you invest in other asset classes? I mean, you can invest in other asset classes, right? There's capital gains, there's stocks, there's real estate. It's not just savings account that you can put your money in, right? So there's many different asset classes which I mentioned in that slide, whether if it's real estate, whether if it's stock, whether if it's peer-to-peer lending or investing in yourself, right? Increasing your net worth, which I mentioned a lot. So I would invest and look at areas other than what you have mentioned because of your religion, right? So I guess that would be my advice.
Yeah, good answer. We have one coming in from Jadaline. So what they want to know, what are some quick financial tips if you are preparing and saving to move out of your family's home to an apartment for the first time?
Yeah, that's another great question. Um, always know like how much money that you're gonna spend. Like if you're moving out, like how much is your rent will be and how much are you spending on a month to month basis. That's why I always create a budget, an Excel spreadsheet or at mint.com to understand, okay, these are some of the trends. I'm going out to a restaurant quite a bit. Maybe I need to reduce that, right? So always have a plan, always figure out how much money that you're going to spend in the next couple of months. Create short-term and a long-term goal, and I think you're going to do well. If you need any help in regards to that, ping me on the side. I'm happy to discuss too. But always create a short-term and a long-term goal, and always create that budgeting plan and figure out how much money that you're going to spend on a month-to-month basis. And I think you're going to do well.
Great answer. We have another one coming in from Marina. So she asks, should I invest more in 401k or Roth IRA? So you may have covered this, but just for some simple answer, what is your approach to this, Kevin?
Yeah. So I would always say diversify your portfolio, diversify retirement savings account. I don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? That's basically asking me, hey, I'm gonna put all my eggs in one basket, but there's also risk in that, right? So I would put your money in 401k as well as Roth IRA, and also with index funds, and also with other investment asset classes. So you always want to diversify. That is kind of what you should do, and what all young people do. And it doesn't matter if you're young, right? If you're an industry professional, you should always diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? You want to diversify to reduce that risk of losing money. So if you diversify, you're able to reduce that risk and you're able to increase that return in the long run. So that's what I would do.
Great insights. George Littman had a very similar question. So how do you know which type of investment to invest in, whether it's stocks, real estate, or other? I often talk to people who are strong believers of investing in stocks, but not so much a fan of real estate or vice versa.
Yeah, thank you, George, for asking that question. Appreciate it. Um, I think again, like it's just with diversifying, right? I think I mentioned in the slide saying stocks are dangerous. Not a lot of people really understand how stocks work. So unless you majored in finance and unless you know all these ratios like the PE ratio, the gross profit margin, the net income, the cash flow analysis, and I personally look at the 10K. So the 10K is an annual filing that all public traded customers have to report to the SEC every year. So it's basically like a tax statement of how the company did, what their risks are, how much money and how much money they make and how much money they lost. So you have to do a lot of due diligence if you're going to put a lot of money in stocks. So I would be very careful. But again, I would diversify your portfolio and putting your money into stocks and bonds and real estate. That's the best way to be successful in the long term. Hopefully that answers your question, George. Thanks for that.
Great. So we have a couple other questions. I know we might be running short on time. So we'll take some of the more relevant ones here. And if we have any outstanding resources or tips, we'll send them in a follow-up email to all the webinar attendees. So one of the questions that's coming in, so with COVID-19, is this a good time to invest? How do you recommend I start off small?
Yeah, it's always a good time to invest. It's never a bad time. I think in the last month, like in March, April, the market's dipped. Like the stock market's dipped. Like S&P 500, Dow Jones dipped. But now it's kind of going up. However, I look at it this way. I think the markets have a lot of room to grow in the next couple of years. So I always look at it in terms of long term. As young people, um, stocks is not a game for a short-term money. Hey, I'm going to invest in stock and I'm going to sell it a month later. I'm going to make so much money. Like that, it's not how it works. It's about gaining wealth and not profits, right? So I would, invest in stocks. Invest in areas that you think are going to grow. So I mentioned, right, tech stocks. Tech companies are really changing every industry and how they work, right? So I would invest in there. Again, I would have preserve a bit of cash in your bank account as well. But again, it just goes with diversifying, right? But I think right now it is a good time to buy. It is a good time to buy. It's never a bad time to buy, but you just got to be smart. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, so much for answering all those questions coming through the
Mhm.
Q&A. For now, we're going to wrap it up. I know a couple of you guys have a couple questions, so feel free to reach out to Kevin directly, and we'll also be sharing his recording of the presentation as well as the slide deck himself, so if you'd like to take a look at that. But with that being said, we just want to reiterate some last minute things before you go in terms of Now Spoke. So we do have a couple of things that we'd like to share here with you. So everyone, thank you so much for joining. We really enjoyed having you and all the really thoughtful questions that came through. If you're interested, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Now Spoke. We'll be posting up some recaps of this wonderful session, Kevin, as well as if you want to stay tuned to following events coming up in the next couple weeks. Feel free to share what you've learned. So if there's anything that really resonated with you, tag us at Now Spoke or even use the hashtag Now Spoke on social media, and we'll definitely check that out. And then we'll be sending up a follow-up email. So take a moment to fill out our post-webinar survey. Let us know how we did, how we can improve, and if you'd be interested in joining us for any future opportunities. But thank you again so much, Kevin, and everyone for joining. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.